Hello, good morning. I do hope that you are well. It's good to be here. So this is the first time that I've done a live stream on YouTube for a while, and Facebook as well. So if you're joining me now, it would be great if you could write something in the comments to let me know that you're here and that you can see me and hear me without any problems. So that would be a great way to start. Let me know where in the world you're watching from as well. It's always good to get an idea of the audience joining me for these sessions. I'm just going to shut my window and get my glass of water. Bear with me. Okay, there we are. That should make it a little quieter. So hello, I've got some people coming in now saying hi. That's fantastic. People in Indonesia, Italy, France. Fantastic. It has been a long time. I've got viewers in Japan and Bangladesh. Wonderful. Poland. Fantastic. Okay, so today we're talking about the beach. Why? Because it's summer for most of us, and this is the time when you would consider spending time on the beach, because the beach is generally a leisure activity, something that we do to have fun, to relax, maybe to spend time with our loved ones, our family, our friends. You may even have a ceremony on the beach. Some people choose to get married on the beach. Let me know what the beach means for you. What does it normally represent? Is it relaxation? Is it sport? Many people go down to the beach in order to take part in some sort of sport. So let me know what the beach means to you. Personally, I'm not a big fan of relaxing on the beach. I'm not the kind of person who can just lie there in the sun for hours and hours on end. I find the beach to be quite exposing. I can't find shade very easily on the beach. And so for me, if I go to the beach, I like to be more active. I love spending time with the children on the beach. There's many activities, which we'll talk about today, that children particularly like to take part in when they are on the beach. So for me, it's a family activity or perhaps an adventure, something active, but not usually relaxing. When I was a child, we would go to the beach a lot. And one of my memories of the beach is sand in my sandwiches. Did you ever do that? Have a picnic on the beach, but the wind would blow at the point where you're about to take a bite of your sandwich, and the sand would be whipped up by the wind and blow into your sandwich, and it would all stick to the fillings, whatever you were having, and you'd have a crunchy sandwich. Ooh. So I have this memory that lives with me of sand in my sandwiches. Okay, so let me know what the beach means to you. Andres, you said, I remember the beach at the Black Sea in Bulgaria many years ago. These days, we're experiencing very high temperatures. And so for some of us, going to the beach might be just unthinkable. Maybe it's too hot to go to the beach at the moment. Yuki, you have a great memory enjoying with your father. But you couldn't swim without a float ring. So yes, many children will have inflatable either armbands, which are the inflatable bands that go around your arm, or a ring, a rubber ring, an inflatable ring that goes around the middle of your body. And many people have a lilo or something that they can inflate and sit on or lie on. So inflatables is actually something that I haven't included in today's list. So inflatables. The problem with inflatables in the UK is we tend to have a lot of wind. So if you have an inflatable on the beach in the UK, you may be chasing it down the beach because the wind will blow it off. There's also inflatable beach balls that people tend to take along with them. Or those rubber rings that have a big unicorn head on. They're quite fun, aren't they? When I was younger, I was in Malta and we had an inflatable dinghy, a boat, a small boat that you inflate with a foot pump. It would take ages and you'd have to keep swapping legs because your muscles would tire. But eventually you had a boat that maybe 3 people could sit in. So we're in Malta and we blow up this dinghy and we put it out onto the sea and the children are playing. And one of the younger children that were with our party, she must have been 4 or 5 years old. She was floating around in this dinghy and we all took our eyes off her. I was only young. I was digging at the side of the ocean, but my mum had to take one of the little children for a nappy change. And unfortunately, she got taken out into the ocean. And by the time my mum came back, we raised the alarm, of course. By the time my mum came back, she was a dot on the horizon. She'd gone so far out. Now, I'll tell you how that story ends at the end, but there's a lot to get through today. So I'm going to, oh my goodness, I got stung by a jellyfish when I was 7. Oh, that must have been a horrible experience to be stung by a jellyfish. Yes, it's never fun when you are on the receiving end of angry wildlife. I do hope that you recovered quickly from that. Okay, so today I have a PDF that I've made, which you can access for yourself. How many pages do we have? 13-page PDF. I've put a link on the YouTube description. Hopefully you can see it in the YouTube description. If you're watching on Facebook, you may have to come over to YouTube, but I will come to Facebook after the stream has finished and put this link for the PDF in the chat if you want to grab it. So you can get the PDF. We're going to cover lots of vocabulary, general beach vocabulary. We're going to cover beach wear, wildlife and general landscape and features of the beach so that you can feel more free when talking about this topic. I'll cover a few collocations, and if we have time, I'll do a little quiz with you. Okay, so as I'm talking and introducing different items of vocabulary, if something's new to you that you didn't know the word in English for, but that maybe you would use when telling your stories, talking about your memories or activities you take part in, then please try to use that vocabulary as we're covering it in the chat. As soon as you start actively engaging with the language, the more likely you are to hold on to that vocabulary moving forward. Okay, so don't just listen and go, yeah, that's great. Actively get involved. Tell me your memories. Tell me what you like to do. Use the vocabulary that I'm teaching you. Okay, fantastic. All right. So first of all, we have the very important word. This whole topic, of course, is about the beach. Beach. Now, the reason I've put this on the screen is because of the pronunciation of this vocabulary. This particular word is often mispronounced because of the long vowel. Now, if you mispronounce it, it can sound like a rude word, a curse word, or a swear word. So we don't want I, we want E. So really extend that sound. Bee, just like a buzzy bee that might sting you, are pollinators. Bzz, bee. And then we add the ch on the end. Beach, beach. Okay, really important that we get that long vowel in there. You don't want to say bit. Okay, so keep that one in mind. Practice that one if you are likely to confuse long and short vowels. If that tends to happen for you, then do work on this one. Now, when you go to the beach, it really depends on what kind of experience you want as to which beach you choose. Some beaches are great for relaxing on, and particularly a sandy beach. A sandy beach. So the adjective sandy means full of sand. Okay, and there's lots of sand. You want a sandy beach to relax on. It's easier to walk on a sandy beach. But what is sand? The noun sand. What is sand? Sand is the teeny tiny grains. Well, it's rock, isn't it? It's rock that's been worn down until it's teeny tiny grains. So we talk about a grain of sand if we want to talk about something that's teeny tiny. It's no bigger than a grain of sand. Okay, so if a beach consists of mostly sand, then it is a sandy beach. What's the problem with a sandy beach though? You get there, you sit down, you relax, and then you think, I'm going to put my feet in the ocean. I'm going to take off my socks and my shoes. It's a beautiful hot day. The sun's been shining all day. What problem might we encounter when walking barefoot across a sandy beach? Barefoot. Barefoot. Well, the sand can stick to your body if you're sweaty or if you've put cream on. The sand can stick to you, or if the sand is wet. If the sand is wet, damp, then it might stick to your body. But yes, Yuki, you know what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at the fact that the sand can be quite hot. So the only problem with going to a sandy beach, apart from sand sticking to your body and getting sand in your sandwiches, is that it can be uncomfortable to walk on hot sand. It can burn your feet. So you need to protect your feet with particular specific footwear. Okay. So there we go. Sandy beaches are fantastic, but if they're too hot, then it could be a problem. If you don't have sand on the beach, then you are on a pebble beach. A pebble beach. Let me show you. Okay, so when we think about the beach generally, we think about this. Ah, beautiful, gorgeous ocean, beautiful sand there. But most beach or many beaches in the UK actually look more like this. Slightly grey sky, slightly grey sea, and pebbles. This is a pebble beach. So pebbles are small, often smooth rocks. Pebbles. So in Brighton, for example, in Brighton, it's mostly pebble beaches. If you want a sandy beach, then you'll have to ask the locals if they know of a sandy beach. And there are other areas, like around Wales, the coast of Wales, there are many sandy beaches, but again, some pebble beaches. Have you been to a pebble beach, and which one do you prefer? We can say a rocky beach. We can say a rocky beach. Pebble beach, rocky beach. If you said to me rocky beach, I would expect that there may be some sharper, more like large rocks. I would expect rocks to be there. Pebbles are particularly these small, smooth stones. Okay. So a pebbly beach, can we call it a pebbly beach? You could call it a pebbly beach, just like you'd say a sandy beach, a pebbly beach. Yeah. Okay. So the problem with pebble beaches is that can also hurt your feet. I'm always thinking about my feet. My feet are very sensitive. And pebble beaches can be more uncomfortable for sitting down and lying down on. Here in this picture, do you know what these chairs are called? They're specific chairs that we use on the beach. Do you know what they're called? These aren't something you would normally carry around with you. You could hire them if there's an equipment hire place on the seafront. But these are called deck chairs. Deck chairs. Is it all one word or two words? I'm not sure. Maybe two words. Deck chairs. So you may see some already out on the beach. When I visited Italy on the Cinque Terre, there were some beaches that had lots of deck chairs already set out. I think you had to pay to get onto the beach, and then you could use the deck chairs there. But most people don't take chairs with them. Most people just take a beach towel. A beach towel. Okay. A beach towel. So most of us take a beach towel or two. I would take a towel to lie on and a towel to use for drying off. Once I've been in the ocean, once I've had a dip in the ocean, I might want to dry off. So I'll have a towel for wrapping around me and a towel for sitting or lying on. We specifically call it a beach towel to differentiate it from your normal bathroom towels. In the UK, I don't know if it's the same in your country, but in the UK, we do tend to use different names for the different purposes of our towels. In the kitchen, we have a tea towel. Those are the small cloths that you use for drying your hands after you've washed up, or for drying pots and pans and plates if they need a quick dry. So those are tea towels. In the bathrooms or in the toilets, you would have hand towels close to the sink to dry your hands. And then you have bathroom towels, although we just tend to say towel for the main big towel that you use to wrap around you. In my house, I have a hair towel. I don't know if this is just me or in other households, but I have a hair towel, a towel that is specific for my hair, because I do every couple of months dye my hair, and hair dye can stain the towels. So I have one towel that's specifically for my hair so that I don't ruin normal towels. So there's a hair towel, a tea towel, a hand towel, your general bathroom towel, and on the beach, a beach towel. Beach towels tend to be a little more colourful. Okay, now coming back to these chairs, I do have a couple of options here coming in. An easy chair, a lounge chair. So there are those harder sun beds. They've got a longer base and adjustable top that you can put into a lie position or a sitting position, but they have a very long base, and they are called loungers. They're sun loungers. So you're not far off calling it a lounge chair. A lounger would be the term that I would use. An easy chair, it's not something we tend to use very much. I just adjust myself in my chair. An easy chair, when you say easy chair, I think of one of those big armchairs that can lean back slightly and have a kickboard that comes out like I don't even know what it's called, a footrest, that lifts up when you press a button. The footrest lifts up and the back of the armchair goes back. Now, an armchair are those softer, big, heavy chairs that you would have in a lounge or a room in the house. That would be an easy chair, but we don't use that phrase very often. Okay, so Emmanuel, you enjoy deck chairs more than sitting on your beach towel. I have to say, as I get older, I need a little more comfort. I'm not as good at finding comfort in uncomfortable positions. I have to be in a comfy chair these days. Okay, a beach challenge. So yeah, maybe I haven't heard that phrase myself. If you said it, I would have an idea of what you meant. But generally, we just say a sun lounger, a deck chair, or a beach towel. Okay. All right. Moving on from chairs. I'm going to take this picture off the screen as well. Okay. So we've talked about the types of beaches. We usually have a sand beach or a pebble beach. Now, there's also another type of beach that you may enjoy going to. It's not my cup of tea, but some people enjoy going to a beach where they can be a little more free. There are a few of these in the UK. I think they're more popular in Europe, but we're a bit prudish in this country. I mean, it depends on the individual, of course. I think maybe as time goes on, the younger generations are more open and more free. But my generation, my mum and my grandma's generation, were definitely more prudish. We don't like to show our bodies very much. Other than, obviously, in this country, we're quite happy to show our shoulders and our arms and our legs. Maybe the younger generations will, or when you're younger, you might show your midriff, so your tummy. But as we get older, we cover those bits because they get a bit wobbly. So nudist beaches are few and far between in this country, but there definitely is one in Brighton because I accidentally walked onto one during a day trip to Brighton, and I was like, oh, there's a naked man on the beach. And then I looked up, oh, there's another naked man. Oh my goodness, I'm surrounded by naked people. Quick, run. So this isn't my kind of thing. It's not my cup of tea, but it might be something that you enjoy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But generally, nudity is saved for the nudist beaches. That's kind of where it's acceptable. I don't know what would happen if you were naked on just a normal beach. I don't know if anyone would say anything. I don't think it's against the law or anything. It's just not the done thing generally. If you want to be naked, you go to a nudist beach. So notice the long ooh there, nudist beach. Okay, so I have found myself on a couple of occasions on a nudist beach, not naked. A secluded beach. So secluded just means kind of hidden. A nudist beach may well be a secluded beach, but a non-nudist beach could also be secluded. It just means that it's kind of hidden away, it's secluded, it's not overlooked. Okay. All right, so we've covered pebbles and sandy, nudist beaches, beach towels, deck chairs. One thing we haven't talked about, one very important aspect of going to the beach, of course, is the thing that covers most of our planet, the ocean or the sea. Ocean, sea. Do you love the sea? How do you interact with the sea? Have you ever taken a dip in the ocean? So take a dip in the ocean, which is another way of saying go for a swim. So to take a dip in the ocean. So you might be sitting on your beach towel on your serene sandy beach, and you might say, do you know what? I'm going to take a dip in the ocean. Have you even heard the phrase skinny dipping? This is something you may do if you're feeling a bit wild and you want to enjoy life a bit more. You might decide to go skinny dipping. Skinny dipping is going into the ocean or into the water completely naked. So taking off all your clothes and getting into the water. It might be something that wakes you up first thing in the morning if you live close to a beach. You might take off all your clothes and dive into the sea and do a bit of skinny dipping. Skinny dipping. Just hope that no one steals your clothes as you're in the ocean. You turn around and someone's run off with your beach towel and all your clothes. Ah! Okay. Have I ever? I don't think I've ever done skinny dipping either. I need to live a little more. I get scared. Okay, so obviously the ocean, it's not fresh water. So we talk about fresh water. If you want to know if a body of water is salty or not, you would use, like, for example, a freshwater lake. We'd say fresh water if we want you to know that it's not salty. Okay, a freshwater lake. Obviously, ocean water is, seawater is salty. So I love the sea. I've played a lot, hung out a lot, spent a lot of time in the ocean as a diver, as well as being a beach goer. But the one thing I don't like is when you get a mouthful of seawater. So as a diver, occasionally it happens, you get seawater in your mouth. When I was surfing, if you get knocked off your board, or when you're trying to get out to find the waves, going through the breaks can be quite rough. I went surfing in Portugal and that was rough. There were some big waves there and I had a few accidents, got a black eye at one point. And when something like that happens, you tend to not stick your tongue out, but you open your mouth and you take a mouthful of water and you're instantly hit with how salty it is. And that can make you feel quite sick. Okay. So it's salty seawater. Okay. There's nothing worse than getting a mouthful of seawater. But otherwise, the ocean can be wonderful. And one thing I talked about there were the waves. So Rosa saying seawater is health. Where is it? Seawater is very healthy. Yes, I found that my eczema improved whenever if I do a week surfing or a week diving. Then I find the eczema, I have patches of eczema on my body, and I find that whenever I do a week in the ocean, my eczema greatly improves. And I think it's the salt in the water that helps my skin. Maybe also the sunshine, a bit of daylight onto my skin. Waves. Wave. Make sure you get this big round A diphthong sound. A, not wa, not wa. Waves. So if you're surfing, you need waves. One fun thing to do with little ones is to jump over waves. So you go for a paddle in the sea. To paddle. Now, paddle is interesting. As a verb, paddling can be just dipping your feet in and stepping around in the shallow water. Shallow. So when we use the word shallow or deep, we're talking about the depth. So let me just bring these up because this is vocabulary that's not in the PDF. Shallow is a small depth. So you can stand in shallow water. You don't want to take the children into anything other than shallow water. And deep water would be perfect for diving or for swimming, maybe not too deep. But this is talking about depth, shallow and deep. Okay. When I mentioned the incident in Malta where the younger girl in the dinghy went out to sea, the problem there was the ocean, as you stepped into the water, became deep very quickly. It wasn't shallow at all. It had a big drop off. So it was very hard to get her back. I tried. I was only about 8 years old at the time. I tried to bring her in, but it got too deep for me too quickly and I was unable to bring her back. Okay. So you might paddle, step around in the shallow water. Paddle can also be used when talking about moving your hands through the water to move yourself along. We have I call it a swimming stroke. It's not really a swimming stroke, but when you're swimming, if you're not a good swimmer or you're a beginner, you'll do something called doggy paddle. Doggy paddle. When you are like doing this and your legs are doing the same thing, just like a dog would do. Doggy paddle. That's a swimming stroke. Okay. So paddling is like this motion. You can do it with your feet. You can paddle in the ocean, the shallow water. So I love, regardless of the temperature, whether it's freezing cold or super hot, I'll always go for a paddle if I'm at the beach. I'll just roll up my trouser legs, take off my socks and shoes and go for a paddle because it feels good to have the sea between your toes and to feel the sand. So paddling. But then if you're in a dinghy, you might paddle a bit. So to push yourself along with your hands to paddle. Or you might lie on the back of the dinghy with your legs in the water and kick your legs. You'll be paddling along. Okay. All right. So there we go. Just a quick question on frequency of live streaming. I intend to do a live stream every Friday if I can. I want to go back to joining you guys live. I've not done this for a long time, so I want to get back into the habit of doing these live lessons. I've missed them. So I will, I intend to do Friday live streams. So mark it in your diary and look out for the event being posted. And you can, make sure also that you're following and that you turn on notifications so that you get the notification when I set a new live, okay? Okay, you've got to go. Thank you. You can watch the replay later, so please do come back. Okay, so what are we saying here? Sometimes there are some big gaps in the beach, bigger than puddles. Not sure what the right phrase is. Do you mean where water is coming down the beach? Like an inlet, or like where water is coming down from the hills and then meeting the ocean? Is that what you mean? Okay, so waves. What waves do? Waves break and waves crash. Okay, so you can have big waves or little waves, but we often talk about waves breaking, and that's when the wave comes up and then like dissipates. It's like smashes into the ocean. So it's lifting, and then it rolls over. So you might hear the rolling waves if one's coming up after the other, but waves break or crash. So those are the words you would tend to hear alongside waves. Probably something that surfers would talk about more often. Okay, so you want to get to a point beyond where the waves are breaking. Where waves break, there'd often be maybe some like rocky seabed underneath there, so you have to be careful where the waves break and make sure you don't get yourself into trouble. Wave churn. So churn would happen underneath where the waves go under. The water might churn underneath, yeah. Paddling, not puddling. Paddling is good for your lymphatic system. It's often a doctor's suggestion. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so am I British? Yes, I am British. I am British. I'm currently not far from London. Ooh, there we go. Hello. There we go. Just taking my desk down. I'm a bit tired, so I'm starting to slouch. Okay. There we go. So if you are playing in the ocean beyond paddling, if you're playing in your inflatables, you're swimming or something like that, then it's useful if there is a lifeguard on hand, a lifeguard around, keeping watch. Not all oceans, or beaches rather, have lifeguards. In fact, I can't remember the last time I saw a lifeguard on the beach. I don't go to the beach that often, but when I was in Wales, I went to many beaches, and that was a month or so ago. I didn't see any lifeguards. So a lifeguard is someone who watches the swimmers, watches people in the ocean to make sure they don't get into trouble. And if they do, then they come out and save you. We do also have a coast guard. So if someone gets into trouble in the water, the coast guard, if there's no lifeguard around, the coast guard is the person that you would call. Or if you were to call emergency services, maybe you are on a little boat, a fishing boat or something, and you're not very far out. Maybe your engine fails or someone falls off the boat and you can't find them. The Coast Guard would be the emergency service that you call for, and they would come out and try and help. Okay, so lifeguards or coast guards. Now, another way to stay safe on the beach, of course, is to protect yourself from the harmful effects of the sun. Okay, so we would wear sun cream or sun lotion. Oh, I've missed off the end there. Sorry, let me do that again. Sun cream or sun lotion. Okay, so we put on sun cream. You put on sun cream. A sun blocker is a term that I'm familiar with, but we don't tend to use it for this. Sun cream or sun lotion is what we would say for the cream you put on your skin to protect you from the sun. So you put on sun cream, you apply is another word, to apply sun cream. But in general day-to-day, we wouldn't say, could you apply sun cream to the children? You'd say, could you put some sun cream on? They need sun cream on, put it on. Sunscreen is another word we would use. Sunscreen. Yes, thank you for offering that. So sun cream, sunscreen, or sun lotion are all commonly used. Okay. All right. So if you don't put on sun cream or you don't reapply it, so apply the first time, and then after you've been in the water, you'll need to reapply unless you've got a good waterproof sun cream. Someone's asking, can we use wear sun cream? Yes, I would use it. Are you wearing sun cream? Yes. Have you got sun cream on? Yes. Are you wearing a sun cream? Yes, I'm wearing sun cream. It doesn't feel unnatural to say that, and I'm sure I've said that at times. If you don't do it properly, if you don't reapply your sun cream, then you're going to get sunburn. So you'll be burnt by the sun. Sunburn is very painful. I think the worst sunburn I ever experienced was when I worked on the cruise ships, and we were in Norway in one of the fjords. We were docked So we weren't moving. It was like blue skies, beautiful, hot summer's day. And I fell asleep sunbathing on the deck. So sunbathing. If you are someone who enjoys relaxing on the beach, sunbathing is what you probably want to do. I don't really do sunbathing anymore, which is why I don't like being at the beach very much. Sunbathing. I fell asleep sunbathing, and of course I was in the sun for too long, and I really badly burned my upper legs, my thighs. It was horrible. It was blistering, like my skin raised and blistered and bubbled. It was the worst burn I've ever had, and it taught me a very strong lesson. Have you ever had sunburn, severe sunburn? Okay, so try to avoid getting sunburnt. Another thing you might want to protect yourself from, especially in the UK, is the wind. And you can do this by putting up a windbreak. A windbreak, something we have here in the UK because it's quite windy. It's just a series of poles with like a cloth between it. So it's like a mesh that breaks the wind. And so you put up almost like a little fence on the beach, wooden poles with this mesh or this material between it that creates a break or a barrier to the wind. And it's probably something you want to have in your car if you're going to visit the coast and go to the beach while you're here in the UK. It's not so easy to put up a windbreak on a pebble beach, but certainly on a sandy beach. Okay. Now, you might also take a large umbrella if you want a little shade over your camp. When you find your spot that you're going to have as your base on the beach, you might put down your towels, lay out your beach towels. You might put up a windbreak and then a huge sun umbrella to protect you all from the sun. Okay. And if you're going to have a picnic on the beach, then you might even have a cool box. A cool box. It just depends on how far away your car is, because carrying all this stuff down to the beach can be tricky. A cool box full of food and drink, and then an umbrella, windbreak, towels, swimwear, suntan lotion. It can be a bit much. Okay, but a cool box is where you would keep your food and your drink cool in the sun, and you'd have ice packs or ice blocks inside that have hopefully been in the freezer the night before. Now, when you get to the beach, one thing I always hope for, especially with my children, is that the beach will be sandy, but that we'll find an area where there is a rock pool or two, so that the children can go and explore, see what they find in the rock pools. And of course, in the rock pools, you're going to find rock pools are where water is collected once the sea is moved back. We'll talk about that in a minute. When seawater is caught and collected in little areas between rocks, a rock pool. And in rock pools, you'll find, of course, a seashell or two. And we often just refer to them simply as shells. My sons love collecting shells. And so actually, because we did this little coastal holiday in Wales, we have buckets full of shells in our back garden at the moment. I don't know why they have to bring them home. So many shells, just little shells. Anyway, seashells. You'll find seashells in rock pools for sure. And the children often will ask for their bucket and spade when they're going to go off and explore the rock pools. They'll need a spade for picking up little creatures that they may find, and they'll need the bucket to store everything, to carry everything. But of course, a bucket and spade can also be useful for making sandcastles. I'll come back to that soon. So let me just show you quickly a rock pool. So here we have a couple of images of rock pools. And in the rock pool, we might find, you'll see just above my head here, a crab with their little pincers. I used to be obsessed with collecting crabs from rock pools when I was younger. We spent a lot of time on the beach when I was a kid. But I often got nipped by the crab's pincers, and that was never fun. And next to the crab here, we have an image of a shrimp. So in the UK, you can find teeny tiny little shrimps in these rock pools. They're often translucent, so you can see through them. So you have to watch very carefully to be able to see them. And then next to the shrimp, we have a starfish. A starfish. Obviously, this is a cutesy one, but they don't have the eyes and the mouth on them when you see them in the rock pools. I think they're hidden underneath. But starfish are common in the UK. And then tiny little fish you can also see in rock pools too. And of course, at the end there, I've included seaweed. We have lots of seaweed in rock pools, but also all along the coastline in the sea. There's nothing worse than when you're trying to launch an inflatable boat, or you're trying to get out to do a bit of swimming, and then you come across a big field of seaweed and it all gets wrapped around your legs and you're like, oh. You start freaking out about jellyfish or crabs pinching you, and this seaweed is wrapping around your ankles. Anyway, there we go. Crab, shrimp, starfish, fish, and seaweed. Okay. And yes, let's just carry on. So one other thing you will need if you're going to go and dig around in the rock pools, especially if there's a lot of water, is a little fishing net, so that you can fish things out and avoid getting nipped by crabs. Okay. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground and I haven't finished yet. All right, next I'm going to talk about beachwear. Now remember, everything that I'm covering here, or the main stuff, is covered in the PDF that you can get hold of. There's also, it's a 13-page PDF, and there is a little quiz at the end and a little dialogue as well, with all this vocabulary and images to help you as well. You can access that for free. You just have to click on the link that should be in the description of the YouTube videos, and I'll share it later with Facebook too. And you can download that and join my mailing list. And people on my mailing list also benefit from regular mini lessons. I often send out PDFs that are available as well, sometimes audios. I let you know when there's promotions going on, and also give you mini lessons along the way. So if you want to get involved and get the PDF, then just use the link. And that would be fantastic to have you join the community. But now let's talk about what we wear. What we wear when we're at the beach. Here, I'm going to give you a very lovely slide here. So in the top corner above my head, very top corner there, we have swimming trunks. Swimming trunks, or we might call them swim shorts. Usually what the chaps would wear, what the men would wear. And next to the swim shorts are flip-flops. Flip-flops. And these are obviously fantastic for protecting your feet from the hot, hot sand, if it's a sandy beach, or for protecting your feet if it's a pebble beach. there's nothing worse than coming out of the ocean and having to walk barefoot across a pebble beach. Or if there's lots of broken shells, it can be really painful. So flip-flops are good to have with you if you're going down to the beach because they're light and easy to put on as well. Now, they are different to sandals. Flip-flops have the complete open back and they make the flip, 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 flip sound against your heels as you're walking in them. Sandals tend to have a few more straps. They often have a strap around the heel, or they'll have adjustable straps across the main part of your foot. Okay, so sandals are slightly different. They're adjustable. Flip-flops are just standard. You can't adjust them. You just slide your feet in and you have the bit that goes between your toe. Sandals don't have the part that goes between your toe. Usually, some do. But there I've got a picture of flip-flops. Now, next to that, over in the other top corner, is a sun hat. If it's got a wide brim like that, it's definitely a sun hat. The purpose of the hat is to protect you from the sun. Okay, I've got 2 sun hats. I love them, but I do find that it affects my vision. It kind of closes down my field of view. My peripheral vision is affected, and I don't like that. But I don't want the sun on my face, so it's a compromise. And sometimes men or women, I guess, but my boys tend to wear caps, which is where you just have the peak at the front, but then it's just close to your head, around the rest of your head. So it doesn't protect your neck necessarily, but it does protect your face. Okay, so that's a cap, different to a general sun hat. We can use the phrase swimsuit or bathing suit for just general clothes worn for swimming. So male or female, swimsuit or bathing suit. So I might say to a group of people, male and female, hey, make sure you bring your bathing suits or bring your swimsuits because we'll have an opportunity to swim. Okay. But for women, we could say a swimming costume, and you might even shorten that to cosy. So a swimming costume or a cosy, I think it's spelled like that. C-O-S-S-I-E. Cosy. I'm not sure on the spelling of cosy. I think it's like that, but please feel free to correct me. It's definitely pronounced as a Z, but I think it's spelled with an S, and I'm sure it's a double S, cosy. But feel free to correct me. Rabbi, you're asking me to underline the object I'm talking about. I can't. I don't have that functionality on this software that I'm using, I'm afraid. But here, above my head, in this bottom corner, this is a 2-piece, often referred to as a bikini worn by women. So it's a 2-piece, but often we just call this a bikini. Okay. And there we go. So on the bottom, we have a bikini and a swimming costume. And the lady is also wearing sunglasses, very important to protect your eyes. And above here, we have swim shorts and flip-flops, and then a sun hat. Okay. I just saw something. Yes, a rash top. So a rash top is like a long-sleeved top. It tends to be have a high neck on it as well, and it's usually lightweight, but it also protects you from the sun. We do use these particularly on children, or if you're doing something like you're going to be spending some time in the sun, like you're maybe doing paddle boarding, and you're going to spend a lot of time on the beach, but the purpose is not to sunbathe. So rash tops would be common if you're doing something like that. My children will always have rash tops on them when we go to the beach, but at some point they will rip them off. And then I'm like, you need some sun cream on, come here. and then I have to cream them up, and then they have to wait until it dries, and they're desperate to get into the sea. Another item you might need if you go to the ocean, if you're going to go really into the ocean, then you might need goggles. And goggles protect your eyes, and they are the little single coverings for your eyes, the goggles. My son, my eldest son particularly, loves his goggles. He has a pair of goggles in the bath because he likes to go underwater in the bath. And we always have a few pairs with us when we go swimming. So he likes to have his goggles on to explore underwater. But if you are going to do some snorkeling, so goggles there, spelled with a double G in the middle, goggles. But you might also need a snorkel if you're going to snorkel. And a snorkel is the long tube that goes from your mouth, and it's supposed to sit above the water, and you normally have an eye protector there as well. Okay, but usually the wider one. Okay. Some people asking for the PDF. I'm hoping that you can see it in the description. Let's double check. So the link is in the description of the YouTube video. So if you just look below this video now, if you're watching on YouTube, you should see the link to get the lesson notes. Okay. In fact, I can share it in the chat, I think. Let me just get the link for you. If I share it in this chat, maybe it'll be a clickable link. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, so it's there in the chat right now. Maybe you can click on that, hopefully. I don't know how it works these days. So what do you usually wear when you go to the beach? I sometimes will wear a bikini if I'm feeling safe, but mostly I would wear a swimming costume, or maybe I'd wear a bikini top and shorts, and then a loose top over the top. Like I said, I don't really like to bare my skin to the sun. I tend to cover up quite a lot when I'm in the direct sunlight because I'm scared of the sun. Don't like to be burned. Okay, all right, you can see it. Fantastic. All right, let's have a quick chat about some other wildlife that you might see around the ocean, on the beach, and in rock pools. We already mentioned, if you remember the on this slide. Ah, here we go. This one. We had the crabs, shrimp, starfish, fish, and seaweed. So we've already covered those ones. But you might also be terrorized by seagulls. Oh, see, I didn't actually get a picture of a seagull. It is in the PDF. There's a picture of a seagull in the PDF. Seagulls are very common here in the UK. You find them on most coastlines, regardless of the country you're in. But here they are very common. They are a menace. They are a menace. Menace is like someone or something that causes trouble for others. The problem is for us here, things like having fish and chips on the beach and ice creams on the beach is very common. And the seagulls have learned that if they dive and they're fast, they can steal the food. And so this has become one of their like main sources of food, things like chips and fish and the batter that we cook the fish in, ice cream, ice lollies. They'll go for anything, sandwiches. So they have become an issue in many popular coastal towns for attacking tourists and anyone trying to enjoy a snack or lunch on the seafront. So you'll find in some very, very busy beach fronts, you'll find notices saying, "Please don't feed the seagulls. Please be aware of the seagulls. They are a problem." So, seagulls, you'll find. Jellyfish, we briefly mentioned jellyfish. Jellyfish often wash up onto the beach, so you might find a jellyfish or two dotted along the beach, and they're just those big lumps of jelly with their long tentacles. Okay, let me just put this in the chat for you. And they sting um, with their tentacles. Oh, I haven't spelled that properly, and it's already going. Sorry, tentacles. I think I've misspelled. Tentacles. Have I? Tentacles. 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 Spelling is not my strong point. I think it's with an A, not an I. But yes, they can sting you, and if you've ever been stung by a jellyfish, you'll know it is not pleasant. Now, from watching Friends, did you ever watch that series? I know that if you are stung by a jellyfish, the best way to deal with it is for someone to pee on you, to pee on the sting. At least that's what they tell you on Friends. Is it true? I don't know. Probably, possibly, who knows? Okay, right, so jellyfish. If you're lucky, you might spot, as you look out to the horizon, really good word to know. The horizon is where the ocean, what you can see ends. So where the ocean appears to meet the sky, that's the horizon. It's beautiful to look at the horizon, especially when the sun is setting. I remember being sat on the coast in Italy, on the Cinque Terre, looking out and seeing the beautiful, like, sunset as the sun goes down over the horizon, comes down, and it's like, "Wow, this is just life. This is living. This is amazing." Um, so it's nice to watch out on the horizon, but also you spot things. If you look out to the horizon, you might spot things. We spotted some seals when we were in Wales, and it was wonderful. There were so many seals. Seals are, how would you describe them? Cute little mammals that are often hunted by killer whales. And they've got big, beautiful eyes and little whiskers. And oh yeah, I love seals. And so, because there were seals, I knew where we were. There was a chance that if we keep watching the horizon, we might spot whales. Wales. So we were in Wales, the country, looking for whales. And I've done that with a capital letter. Or in, let me do that again. In Wales, a capital for the country, looking for no capital for the animal. There we go. There we go. I have corrected it. We were in Wales, in the country Wales, looking for whales. Wales, Wales, exactly the same sound. Unfortunately, we didn't see any whales on this occasion. We were also looking for dolphins because we were told that dolphins also frequent the coastline that we were visiting. They are frequent visitors, they frequent that area. But we didn't see any dolphins on that occasion. I have seen dolphins in the wild, um, on a few occasions. I lived at sea for 2 years, so we did spot dolphins, during that time. Okay. Have you ever seen a dolphin in the wild? They're magnificent creatures. Now, you may, in the UK, see mussels, kinda like shellfish. They're long and black. Um, can I share this with you? Can I share a screenshot? No, I don't think I can. So they close tight, but we can cook them, and they sorry for vegetarians. Cook them and they open, and they've got like an orangey meat inside, and, in French, you would have moules marinières, so mussels is moules, saying that right? But moules marinières is like a mussels in a white wine sauce or a creamy sauce. Um, so yes, mussels are very commonly found on most, beaches, especially where there are rocks. They tend to, like, stick, close to the rocks. And we also have a lot of limpets. So limpets are the shells that stick to the rocks, and they can cling to the rocks really tight. So if you can see rock pools, you'll see limpets. Um, and if you're quick to get them off, you can also it's a shellfish, you can eat them. You can cook them and eat them. So there's that. If you are very lucky and you live in a country where you will find this particular marine reptile, that's fantastic. You won't see them in the UK, but I thought I'd mention turtles. 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 We don't pronounce the R. Turtles. Turtles. Cute, cute little shelled marine reptiles. Turtles. It always makes me think of Finding Nemo with the, cool turtles are like, "Hey, man." Anyway, right. Moving on to a couple of items about the landscape and the features of a beach. So as I move on, I want you to let me know in the chat what, what animals you tend to see when you're down at the beach. What's common for you to see, and what do you enjoy seeing? We've had a mention of a shark. Yes, in the UK, sharks are not common, although they are migrating here more often because the oceans are warming up. But you will find tiger sharks. So the little tiger sharks, when I was a kid, I found 1 or 2 tiger sharks, unfortunately deceased and washed up on the beach. Um, and when I was a child, I was petrified of, like, swimming in the sea in case I was eaten by a shark. Jaws was a big when I was a child, so I think that did me. Um, but sharks are not something we have to worry about here, really. Obviously, if you go to Australia, or South Africa, you wanna be careful when you're swimming because you might encounter a shark or 2. Okay, so tell me what wildlife you tend to find when you go to the beach. Anything different to what I've mentioned? Yeah, so you don't get bitten by a jellyfish, and jellyfish is spelt with a J, not a G. There we go. A J, not a G. You get stung by a jellyfish. Stung. A bite is anything where teeth break or put pressure onto your skin or break your skin. That's a bite. Like humans bite, dogs bite, cats bite, jellyfish sting, um, bees sting, wasps sting. And that's about administering poison. Okay, let's talk about landscapes and features if you're not too tired. I know I do a lot of talking and I start to become self-conscious. I feel like I'm talking too much, but I'm on my own, so okay, we often talk about the shoreline or the shore, and this is the edge of the sea or the ocean, so anywhere where you can see the edge of the sea, whether there's a beach or not, that is the shore or the shoreline. If there's been a shipwreck or something has been lost at sea, it may wash up on the shore. To wash up on the shore. Wash up. A common phrasal verb used in the house. Washing up is something we say when we're washing dishes, dirty dishes, we wash up. But if it washes up on the shore, then it means the sea brings it onto the land. It washes up. There was a story about what are they called? The big metal boxes when they're on big ships that take goods from one country to another. Containers. A container. So a container ship that takes these big metal containers that store large amounts of goods. There was a container ship where a container, I think, full of rare Lego pieces fell into the ocean because of rough weather or storm, huge waves, and it made this container fall off into the ocean. And all this Lego was lost to the ocean. But over the years, lots of these little figures and pieces have been washing up on shores around the world, and people can then sell these pieces for a lot of money because they're quite rare, and obviously they were lost to the sea. Okay, so shoreline or shore. We also talk about the coast, which is anywhere where the land meets the sea. So the coast and the shore quite, they're interchangeable to a certain extent. But the shore is very much the edge, the edge of the ocean, whereas the coast is where the two meet, ocean and land meet. Now, along much of the coastline, particularly here in the UK, we have cliffs. Cliffs. Famously, we have the white cliffs of Dover. And the song, "There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover." Old song, very old song, but still great. So cliff is a very steep, rocky face, um, in this case, by the sea. Okay, so you don't want to get too close to the edge of a cliff. Sometimes cliffs can give way, they can pieces can break away. Um, there will also be, as you go along the coast, you'll also see different bays or coves. So a bay or a cove is where the coastline kind of comes in and makes a secluded or protected little area. Now, if a bay has a little beach, then that would normally be very popular with beachgoers because it'll be protected from the wind and it'll be quiet. The sea there might be a little bit calmer because it's protected. So if you're going along the coastline, you might be looking out for a little inlet, little bay or cove. Um, Now, what you do need to be careful of when you are deciding to spend a day by the beach, with some places, it's important to know what the tide is doing. Is it going to be high tide? What time is low tide? When will the tide turn? So we talk about the tide. Tide. High tide is when the sea is at its highest level in that area. So if you go to a beach completely underwater at high tide, then that's not gonna be good for sunbathing. But it might be good if you're fishing or if you're snorkeling or diving. If you want to go fishing and it's low tide, but it's great for rock pool hunting, hot rock pool exploring because the sea has gone out to its furthest point and you can access all the rocks and the rock pools, go and sunbathe and spend time on the beach. I was born in a coastal town called Southport, and in Southport, when the tide goes out, the sand goes on for miles. I'm not talking about along the coastline, I'm talking about from the coast, from the edge, from the path and the road out towards the sea, it's miles. I always joke about the fact that if you go to Southport Beach, there is no sea, it's just beach. That's all it is. There's no sea. It does come in. You do have to be careful when it comes in, you can get trapped and disorientated. But, yeah, it's just miles and miles and miles of sand, especially at low tide. Um, if you're swimming, you want to be careful with the tides as well, because the tide can be strong, and particularly talking about currents. So the current is the movement of the water in the sea. Sometimes you'll see warning signs when you're visiting, when you're at the ocean, you're at the beach, there might be a warning to swimmers that there are strong tides, strong currents. And there may even be rip tides. I'm getting very technical here. A rip tide is where two currents meet. So if one's going in one direction, one's going in another. If they meet, they cause this stream of intense, strong current that's very hard for any swimmer to escape. And so you're always warned. There'll always be signs to say, usually, signs to say if there's a riptide here, be very careful. So be careful of riptides and be aware of the current, especially if you're told there's a strong current. You don't want to get yourself into trouble when swimming. In the UK, it's very popular at most seaside towns to see a pier. If it's a bigger town like Brighton, Blackpool, uh, Southport has a pier. Many of the kind of Victorian seaside towns have a pier. And the pier is like a wooden, metal, I guess, walkway that walks out from the beach over the sea. So it kind of jumps out into the sea, but you can walk. And some of the piers are huge. Some piers will have like an amusement arcade and fairground rides, and a Ferris wheel, lots of places to sit, places to buy food. So piers can be big, they can go on for a long time, or there might be a little pier. Near where my mum lives in Wales, there's a little pier that you can walk to the end of in a few minutes. Along the front of a beach, there'll often be a promenade. A promenade is a walkway that walks along the beach. You might run, jog, cycle, roller skate, rollerblade along the promenade, or simply go for a walk along the promenade. That's hand in hand with someone special. Walking the promenade. Um, the only other thing to mention, in some places, you see a lighthouse. A lighthouse is that very, very tall building, and on the top, it's got a huge light. And you'll normally find this around an area where there's lots of rocks and cliffs. And the purpose of a lighthouse is to warn anyone on the ocean, boats, ships, that there are rocks. So it's wherever there has been many shipwrecks, where ships have gone into rocks that aren't easy to see, they'll erect a lighthouse, and the lighthouse will shine a very bright light to warn ships not to come near. There are two lighthouses I'm aware of in Anglesey, which is off the corner of Wales. If you're ever in the UK to do a day trip over to Ireland, you'll go to Anglesey, a small island, to get the ferry to Ireland. And there's a lighthouse at the top of Anglesey called North Stack, and there's a lighthouse on the south side of the island called South Stack. And you can go and visit them and walk up them and learn all about them. A lighthouse, the house of the light, yes, a lighthouse. And someone usually lives in the lighthouse, and they keep it running all year round. Okay. So, the only other thing to talk about in terms of features and landscapes is the landscape under the sea, the seabed, or the ocean bed, or the ocean floor, sometimes referred to. It's the ocean floor or the ocean bed, or the seabed. And it might just be sandy. The seabed might be covered in seaweed. You may find a crab or two, fish staying close to the ocean floor, but in some places you may find a reef. A reef. And a reef is where there's like coral and rocks. So you have to be careful if you're surfing close to a reef. Obviously, coral reefs are struggling. Many of them are being bleached by the sun. Many of them are being destroyed for different reasons. They take many, 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 many years to grow. Um, but if you're surfing or doing any kind of water sports close to a reef or a coral reef, you have to be careful because that's where you can hurt yourself and get yourself into trouble. If you're surfing and you fall off your board and a wave crashes you down towards the ocean floor and you hit the reef, you could get stuck. You could injure yourself against a rock. Very dangerous. So you have to look out for where the waves break, and find out where the reef is. Trying to Okay, gosh, we've talked about a lot of things. Did I miss anything? Going for a swim, building a sandcastle, something that you would do with your bucket and spade. In fact, when I was younger, one of my favorite things to do wasn't to build a sandcastle, but to dig a trench. What I wanted to do was make a hole deep enough to catch the ocean. If the tide was coming in, I wanted to stop the tide from destroying the castle that I'd made, or maybe it was the castle that someone else had made. And so I could see the tide getting closer and closer, the waves were coming closer to our construction. So I dig this trench, and I keep working on it, and it would keep filling up with water, and the walls would start falling in. I'm like, "No," and I keep digging down and bailing out the water, to bail out the water is to take buckets of water and throw it out, to bail it out. I bail out buckets full of water. I was bailing out buckets full of water to stop the tide from coming in. How crazy. Only an 8-year-old would believe that they could stop the ocean from coming in just by digging a hole. Very silly of me. But, I've always been someone to work hard and keep trying. We also play games on the beach. I play volleyball. I had the best experience in Norway, apart from when I got sunburned of in a place called Idefjord. Beautiful little fjord. There's a little sandy beach on the edge of that glacial lake, and there are wild strawberries growing, which I remember. I went kayaking one day at glacial lake and ate strawberries afterwards off the side of the beach. Amazing experience. But then there was also a volleyball net set up, and some of the crew members would come up on their break, and we'd play volleyball on the beach overlooking a beautiful fjord next to a glacial lake. Like, life was just I was so lucky. Um, there was also a pontoon set up there. A pontoon is a floating platform, usually just a little square, often set up for swimmers in lakes so that they can have somewhere to rest on, or if they want to go into deeper water, and then maybe fish from there or dive from there, and they've got a pontoon to protect themselves on. So we would swim in the glacial lake, which was freezing, and I have a picture of me in a bikini, freezing, stood on a pontoon in the middle of a glacial lake with the cruise ship behind. What a wonderful time that was. You may also play some sort of bat and ball game, so you may just take balls and little paddles or like tennis racket type things. You may fly a kite if the weather permits. If it's windy enough, you may take out a kite and fly your kite. You could kick a football around as well. Um, what else could you do? We tend to collect shells, build castles, write things in the sand, make a sand car, dig a huge hole, bury each other. Kids like to do that, don't they? Bury each other, you see a head sticking out the sand being like, "Can someone help me, please?" Okay, guys, I've been here for an hour and a half. Do hope that you found this useful. Um, please let me know what you thought of today's lesson, because if you did find it useful, then I would make sure that I am here again and again and again talking about different topics. Please let me know in the comments, what topics would you like me to cover in future live streams? What do you do often, but you don't know how to talk about? What would be useful for you? Let me know in the comments. And remember, you can get access to the PDF that I've made. There are some quiz questions and obviously answer sheets as well. There's also a little dialogue that you would maybe hear, use if you went to buy an ice cream from the ice cream vendor. Okay. Um, the question: can I use chuffed in a job interview, or is it too informal? It is quite informal. It depends on the nature of the job interview. If it's like a job that's kind of really relaxed and maybe a creative job, and maybe the interviewer is quite informal in the way they talk to you, then maybe chuffed would be okay. But as a rule, chuffed, it's a slang. For those of you who don't know, to be chuffed means to be very pleased, very happy. I'm really chuffed. I'm chuffed with this live stream. I'm very pleased with this live stream. Um, so I would be careful. Always on the side of caution. Always be more careful because you don't want to come across the wrong way, especially for a job interview. Okay. I intend to be live same time again next week, as long as my diary allows. Let me quickly check while I'm here. Oh, no, I can't, because I am going to be live for doing a Q&A Zoom call with my private students. So it'll be a little later, maybe 11 AM. So around this time, from 11 till maybe 12:30. Just starting a little later because I've got that clash in my diary. Okay? But hopefully you can join me. And Laura, oh, where are you? You suggested vegetable gardening, pets, comedians, and so on. Okay, thank you for the suggestion. I will put them on a list. And yeah, evenings are more desirable. I appreciate that, but I've got 2 young children, and honestly, the way they look at me when I tell them I can't put them to bed, and my children take a long time to go to sleep, and they really need me to be there with them. And so whenever I say, "I'm sorry, darlings, daddy's going to put you to bed tonight," or "the babysitter's going to put you to bed, I've got to work," or "I've got to do something else," and I get the eyes, and I get the really sad faces, and they tell me how much they miss me and how sad they are, and it just breaks my heart. So I appreciate the evenings would be better, but it doesn't fit with my desire to be an amazing mum. So it has to be during the day for now. Okay, but you can always catch up with the recording as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Do continue to put your comments in the chat. I will read them later on after I've had some lunch. And don't forget to download your PDF. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you next week. Take very good care of yourself and